Education Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10, episode 115. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Grow West, the Technology Council of West Kentucky, KY Innovation, and local partner Sprocket Innovation in Paducah, and the Kentucky Innovation Station in Madisonville. A few weeks ago, we started talking about things that mitigations in particular that your organization can and frankly should be doing to help mitigate the risk of ransomware. A few weeks ago, CISA, which is the federal agency that manages cybersecurity on behalf of the government, it's part of Homeland Security for the time being, was issuing an alert like they do on several topics, but this particular alert was an alert on the Royal ransomware, and it talked about, the alert had the technical details, it had the tactics, the information, the malicious IPs that are used in the Royal ransomware attacks. It also had mitigation tips. And these mitigation tips are actually very valuable, very helpful tips, but they're not just tips for stopping the Royal ransomware. They're tips for stopping ransomware, and they're tips for stopping cyber attacks. It can go across the board. So I wanted to take some time and start a conversation about tips and mitigations that you can and should be taking to keep your organization safe from cyber attack. And let me say that some of these are about preventing cyber attacks or preventing ransomware, and some of these are about minimizing the impact of ransomware. There are two different ways, or there's a holistic way, if you will, about how you should approach cybersecurity. And part of that is do what you need to do to prevent it, do what you need to do to detect it, and then what do you need to do to recover, to get rid of it and recover your systems from it. You really need to look at all three things, and it gets a little more complicated than that, and maybe we'll talk about that again at some point in the future. But for now, these are 15 tips that that CISA have provided, mitigation techniques that you should be taking to keep your company safe from ransomware. Last week, we talked about install, regularly update your software. Now let's talk about antivirus software. Install, regularly update, and enable real-time detection for your antivirus software on all hosts. Every host on your system should have some level of detection of virus and malware on that may be downloaded on your to your host. What that real-time detection should do is look if you download a file, if a file is being transmitted without your knowledge, if it's via email, whether it's on the web, a good system will detect and look at that file, look at their signatures, and realize, oh, this is malware. Let's block it. Let's flag it. Let's quarantine it. Let's make sure that we don't open that to spread that malware on your system or across your network. The argument with antivirus software that I often hear all the time is that, well, there's a new thing out that my antivirus software won't detect. In some ways, you're right. In some ways, you're wrong. If it is a brand new 0-day malware, then no, it's not going to detect it. That means we don't have a signature for it. It means it has been launched before anybody has noticed it. As soon as it's noticed, as soon as the antivirus software companies, as soon as cybersecurity research can put a signature on it, then it's going to be added to the database of signatures that your antivirus software is looking for. If you don't update it, regularly update it, then no, you're not going to have it. So installing antivirus software is important on every endpoint, But equally as important is regularly updating it. So those latest and greatest signatures can be added to what you're trying to look for, what you're scanning for across your system. An example, this CISA advisory a month ago didn't exist. Well, now we know some of the signatures that we're looking for. Now we know a little bit about how they're doing, um, how they're infecting organizations. So now we can look for it. We couldn't before. Now we can. It's that simple. Um, so make sure you have that. Make sure you're regularly updating that, and make sure you have enabled real-time detection. Some people actually, last thing I'll say on this, there are people that don't want to have real-time detection on because they say it takes up too much processor, takes up too much memory. Um, Frankly, if you don't have the real-time monitoring on, then it's probably pointless to have the software to begin with. That real-time monitoring is what's going to really save you by if you accidentally click on something, it's going to scan it and all automatically know that that's malware and automatically quarantine it. Yes, you should do regular system scans as well, but that real-time monitoring is a crucial piece that you need to make sure that you have active all the time. Number 8 is review domain controllers, servers, workstation, and Active Directories. It is a good habit to always check out your systems to see what kind of active accounts you have. Are there new accounts? Are there accounts that you don't recognize? Now, why is that important? If I were able to, or if an adversary were able to break into your system, what they may do is to create a user account that they like better so that they can do the things on your system that they want to do without having to use your account. So maybe your account doesn't have the exact permissions they want. So if they can create a new one on your account, on your system, on your workstation, on your server, then they might do that. So often they will go in, create a new account. If there's a new account that's been created, that's a big flag, especially if you're the domain or system admin and you didn't create it. If there's an account that you don't recognize the name of, the structure of, then obviously that's going to be a red flag as well. Part of that is number 9 is audit user accounts, especially those user accounts with admin privileges. Not every account needs admin privileges. So make sure that only those that need it have it. The principle that you should use when creating user accounts is the principle of the least privilege. That user needs the least privileges necessary to do their job effectively. If you're only going to be doing data entry, you don't need admin rights. Everybody wants admin rights, but you don't necessarily always need admin rights. Your organization should regularly go through and audit those user accounts. Again, why is this important? This is important because if you're logged in as an admin when you don't need to, you click on a link, you get infected with ransomware sometimes, or actually even a general cyber attack. With ransomware, sometimes it will infect everything on the network that you have permission to access. So if you're the admin and you have access to everything, well, now it's going to infect everything. So there is creating problems where you don't necessarily need to have problems. So I would encourage you to eliminate that access where it's not necessary. Even with a general cyber attack, not necessarily a ransomware attack, but just a general cyber attack. If you have access to other systems, then that means if your account gets compromised, then those other systems are going to be compromised as well. If you don't need access to other systems, then why give that permission to you to have access to those systems? It might be easier on the administrator, but it's bad security practice. The right way to handle that is, again, going back to the privilege or the principle of least privilege. Only give access to what is necessary to do their job. That's the typical approach that most people in cybersecurity should take on their systems. Again, this is a lot of information that we've been going through the last few weeks. We're still going to have another week or two of this. I hope you find this helpful. Maybe it's not extremely interesting, but hopefully you find this helpful, because these are tips that can save you and save your organization. These are things that can protect you, minimize the impact of ransomware, and maybe stop a cyber attack altogether. Thank you for joining today. I'll see you next week back here on 10 at 10. Thank you. Bye.